Lazy Ass Google Farmer here with Dreaming Big Farms. It's been over a month since I've posted. Since then, I went to Idaho for a couple days. My dad passed away on September 30th, and he died of acute myeloid leukemia. It kind of overtook his body, went into his lungs, and it had tumors in his lungs. They didn't know if it was cancer or not, but there was nothing else they could do. So we went there the Sunday before the 30th and spent some time with him, saying our goodbyes. That was pretty rough. Still is kind of rough. Still new. Never had a loss that close to me before. My family has been very blessed that we haven't lost anybody really close except for our dad now. Other than that, we've lost our grandpas, both grandpas on my dad on my mom's side and my dad on my dad's side. Passed away years ago. That was about the closest we've ever had in loss. My dad, he was born in December 28th, 1948 in Wisconsin. I believe it was Durand, I think, or somewhere close to there or something. And he joined the service after high school. He was stationed at Grand Forks Air Force Base, was his first base. And Minot, North Dakota. Minot Air Force Base in North Dakota was my first base. His first plane that he ever worked on was a B-52. My first plane I worked on was a B-52, which is kind of neat because both of our first assignments were in North Dakota. And then he went from North Dakota to Thailand for a year during Vietnam, loading weapons on. He was a weapons loader, loading on B-52s and F-4s and F-111s. I also got the chance to work on EF-111s while I was in. So that's another cool thing that I got in common with my dad. He went from there, he went back home to Wisconsin. He got out for a little while, then decided that he wasn't making enough money putting food on the table. So he came back in just before I was born. Went from Thailand to Mountain Home, where my older brother was born, Mountain Home Air Force Base, Idaho. My older brother was born there. I decided to get out, I guess, headed back home to Wisconsin, couldn't put food on the table, decided to come back in. And then he was stationed in Clark Air Force Base, Philippines, where I was born. And he went from there, he went back to Mountain Home Air Force Base in Idaho. And that's in the southern part of Idaho, for those that are not familiar with it. It's down by Boise, just south of Boise, about 45 minutes or so. I went to there where my little brother was born. And then he went from there to Lakenheath, England. Lakenheath Air Force Base in England, where my little sister was born. And then his father-in-law, my grandpa, on my mom's side, passed away. Then he got an emergency relocation back to the States, and we went from England to Wisconsin, lived with my grandma for a while, went to school in Portage, Wisconsin, and then my dad headed south down to Tucson, Arizona. So after he got settled and everything, got a house and everything for us, we moved there after school was over. Moved down there, me and my siblings, my older brother, my younger sister. And then he retired from the Air Force after 21 years and 9 months service, something like that, 8 months service. Went from there, moved us all up to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, where we spent some time at a friend of his, Bob Wright's place. We lived in a camper. Moved from there to the KOA, just outside of Coeur d'Alene, and then they found a house to rent in Post Falls, Idaho, where we rented for, I think, a year, pretty close to it, or 6 months or something. I don't know. And they bought a house, and then we in Post Falls, just right up the block, about a block and a half away, 2 blocks away. So we moved there, and that's where we spent. I spent the rest of my time, 3 years in that house. Dwight spent a year, my older brother, and then my little brother and little sister spent most of the time in that house. He retired Master Sergeant E7 in the Air Force. He went several different places, TDY. I know that. I don't know where all he went, TDY, where all he got deployed or any of that stuff. I know he went to Vegas a couple times. I don't know where else. I don't even know where his tech school was back then. Everything's changed so much over the years as far as tech schools go. So in 1990 is when we moved up there. I spent 3 years there before I joined the service. Dwight spent a year there before he joined the service. He joined the Air Force right out of high school. He spent 20 years, pretty close to 21 years, something like that, in the service. Retired. I retired after 20 years and 17 days in the service. So there's us three, all served our country. Over 62 years of service combined, 62 years plus between the three of us. And then my nephew, my oldest nephew, is in the service now. He's in Georgia, or I don't know where he's at now. He's been all over the world already. Been in for a few years. So he kind of followed after his dad and his grandpa's footsteps. So he's the third generation Air Force member. See, my dad, after he retired, he went to work for Lyle's Enterprise. Really became really good friends with Steve and Tanya, Lyle and Coeur d'Alene. Still good friends with them today as a family, and our prayers are with Steve through his hard times that he's having right now. Other than that, he went from Lyle's Enterprise, he went and worked at Kimball Industries as a welder supervisor. And then he retired from there completely at the age of 62. He decided that he was done working. Retired. After that, he kind of just hung out, went wherever, traveled, went from house to house, mine and Dwight's house. They bought a camper and lived at the campground there in Post Falls for, I don't know how long they lived there for, 10 years? Pretty close. I know they lived in a camper for 10 years, but I don't know where all they went. I know Kelso Lake was one of the places that they frequently visited. They had a camper there for years. They liked going there. My dad loved fishing, hunting. Of course, later on in life, he wasn't able to get out and do much hunting, walking around and stuff. He wasn't able to do that quite a bit. But he loved to fish. That was his thing. He loved fishing. So yeah, it's been kind of a rough couple weeks, month and a half now. Pretty close to a month and a half since I posted. That's why I haven't posted anything in a while. It's because of his passing. I was hoping to go there and get him on the video to do a little videography about his life, but he just was not in the shape or in the mental shape of doing it. I was just there just to say goodbye, and that was fine. My dream of him being on here just didn't happen. I know that he wished he could be here at the farm. Riding horses was his one goal before he passed, but he was not able to do that, unfortunately. He was too sick to come. And but he's up in the sky now, probably saddled up and riding horses up there. Who knows what heaven's like? I don't know. I don't think anybody on earth knows what heaven is actually like. You can read the Bible, you can do whatever you want, and people can come down and tell you what it's like or whatever. Who knows? Nobody knows. I don't know because I've never been there, never came back, so don't know. We'll all know one day whether we go up there or we go down. If there's a heaven or hell, who knows? If you believe in God, then you believe that there is a heaven and there is a hell. And I do. I believe in God, and I believe there is a heaven and there's a hell. I just don't know what it's like. You can't convince me otherwise of it being a utopia, or you're going to be up there. It's going to be a big party. There's going to be all this stuff because I don't know. You can't convince me that there's going to be a big party, and we're going to be able to recognize our relatives or our loved ones that's passed, friends, acquaintances, whatever. I don't know. You can't convince me otherwise that what it's going to be like, because evidently you're here talking to me, you're trying to convince me, and you're it's hard to convince something that you haven't seen. But other than that, put up some new lights in the shop today, so I can see in the back there. Combine header, Farmall M, and then Swather is back there, Ranger. Started putting lights in here up front a couple months ago, actually. They've been in now for probably about a month and a half. I got electrical work done. It's old John Deere D there, AJ. He's trying to get that fixed up. Got my fire pit here. It's not going because I ran out of propane, but been having that on when I sit out here. Right now it's in the 40s. Right now, sprinkling outside. Man, I'm ready for a nap. But thanks for tuning into the channel and watching this. And Dad, I know that you're listening. Rest in peace, and hopefully we'll get to see you someday or talk to you someday. I love you. Bye, everyone.